As Beatty struggled with Altman, Dennis Hopper was planning his next film.
Well, I'm going to now make the movie that I wanted to make as my first movie, which is called The Last Movie. It starts with the last scene of the movie being shot, and the company leaves, and these people are left with the streets, where one man becomes the director, and he makes the people build a stick camera, and he makes them act out the violence that he saw the movie company acting out.
After being turned down by his former partners at BBS, Dennis Hopper took his new project to Universal Pictures, which set up its own low-budget division, headed by Ned Tannen, to try to cash in on the youth market.
A friend of mine was flying with Dennis Hopper on an airplane, and he said, Dennis loves me and Bob McGee, and he wants to hear some more of your songs, because he's going to be making a movie, and he wants to see if he can do the music for it. And so my publisher flew me out to L.A. out here, and Dennis took my songs around and showed them to Phil Spector, and at the end of it, he said, will you go down to Peru with me? I'm making this movie, which was the last movie, and he took me down there to do the music for it.
I was just remembering the plane trip down to Peru was one of the scariest things I've ever been in. I mean, here was a plane full of strange people, including myself, but they were all so loaded and walking up and down the aisles and singing and dancing, and the plane was rocking. It was a Peruvian airline. I don't know what it was. It was really a ship of fools, you know. It's amazing that anybody got out of that alive.
By the time I got down to Peru, I think he'd already antagonized the Catholic Church, the military junta, the communists who were building the road that we had to take from Cusco up to Chinchero, where they were filming.
They cast all these friends of Dennis's, Mitchum's son and all these other guys. They were huge guys, and they rode on horses, and they took enormous quantity of serious drugs.
Mixed together with being high in the Andes, in the cocaine capital of the world. It was a very insane scene. But for me, it was an interesting introduction to the film, to movies, you know.
What the hell? Hey, hold it, cut! What the goddamn hell's the matter with you, Tex? Where the hell have you
My
been?
name's Kins. I'm sorry.
I don't care if
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize
Who hired him?
It's okay. I'm
sorry.
He's supposed to be in the cab.
I don't give a goddamn shit. You hire him?
Yeah, I hired him.
All right, get your positions again, and on a double. Come on, we've been on this damn shot too long. Hey, Kansas, will you quit spooking that goddamn horse? We're trying to get the shot here.
The movie was in Dennis's mind, so nobody else seemed to know what was going on or what was happening.
I was convinced that we had a good movie in a can, and so we all come back. Dennis goes to Taos, New Mexico, and I think he bought D.H. Lawrence estate, which is a beautiful compound and all, and he decided he's going to edit the film there. Of course, he invited all his buddies and everybody, and it was an endless 24-hour parties, you know, and all that stuff, you know, and spending money and all, and everybody was talking into giving advice, you know, you should do this, that. And basically what had happened, really, Dennis screwed it up, you know, in editing, you know, and he didn't let anybody, a professional editor, come in, and that's what he should have done.
He was pretty much going his own way. I think Dennis had probably been fighting so long to do it his way that when he got a budget which seemed outlandish at the time, I think it was $1 million, he was not going to be pushed around by anybody. Sam was like a dog that you love, but he's always doing something that kind of embarrasses you, you know.
I don't even think Sam would be allowed to get into L.A., much less work in L.A. He was a total outlaw, and it was one of the last of a breed. It was like one of the Wild Bunch, you know.
But there was clearly a case of a real survivor. I mean, Sam had the mentality. He was like, he couldn't really create until he was face down in the bar room, dead broke, with everyone standing around laughing at him.
Dylan came to see me, and by that time we had cast Kristofferson. he said, you know, I got to tell you that in a past life, I was Billy the Kid. So I said, well, that's great, you know, Bob, that's what you're in, you know. So 2 weeks later, we flew down to Durango together, and we went to see Sam. It was like late at night. Sam lived on kind of outside of town, and we walked up towards the house, and there was this scream out of the house, and this maid ran out just terrified. And we heard a shot. And I thought, oh man, this is gonna blow the whole thing with Bob, you know.
Hey, Pete, who's that out there?
I knocked on Sam's door, and there was no answer. I pushed open the door, and Sam was standing in front of this mirror, completely naked, with a gun in his hand. This mirror was totally blown to hell, and he was like looking at his reflection and didn't say anything. He had a bottle in one hand and a gun in the other, and I said, Sam, this is Bob Dylan.
In the end, Dylan's soundtrack would make more money than Peckinpah's film.
He was trying to make something good. Unfortunately, it was so much creative energy I felt was expended in fighting the guys who were supposed to be on his side, you know, the studio or the producers or whatever.
In the deserts of Nevada, Sam Peckinpah was driving Convoy off the road.
Cocaine and booze was a big problem. And that would certainly explain a lot of the delays. I was on the wagon then, and Sam wasn't. And I would stay pretty much in my trailer. I didn't want to get out and get in trouble. And they actually fired him at one point. And I told him that I would walk if he weren't kept on the film. We were standing outside the saloon where the truck stop where the fight was, and he came up behind me and says, "You son of a bitch, I was out of here." And I said, "Well, you son of a bitch, you got me into here, you know." He was in rough shape.
Time and time again, he would ruin himself financially. He'd ruin his personal life. He'd ruin his reputation. And then, so he could do this whole Phoenix act. It didn't work with cocaine. He did fall flat down face down on the floor again with cocaine. Only this time he couldn't get up. A different drug, you know.
William Blake said the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. It also leads to the grave.